Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to a new edition of the NH Experience. And on today's show, I have a very special guest, very talented guest, nonetheless. She's a multicultural publicist and branding strategist. She has over 10 years of experience in the game. She deals with the entertainment side, the corporate side, lifestyle, whatever it is, she can definitely handle it. No task is too great. She's also worked on national campaigns with companies like Live Nation, PepsiCo, Warner Brothers Music Group, Universal Music Group, the Nixon Peabody LLP, and so forth. I could go on and on, but I'm gonna let her tell her side of the story. She's also has a BA in journalism with an emphasis in public relations, rather, from CSUN, that's Cal State University Northridge, out here in Southern California. And she owns SDP Digital. She is the one and only Sasha Pisterman. What's going on? How you doing?
Hey, I'm good, Nick. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Good to see you. I know we haven't seen each other in a minute.
I know we used to always be at the shows, but after COVID hit, it was a wrap for all that.
I feel like life hit the reset button once COVID hit. It was like, okay,
Yeah, for
once
sure.
it's good to be back outside. It's good to see you, of course, as always.
Likewise.
Um, so talk to me a little bit just about your background growing up for you. What was that like? And at what point did you realize, okay, I want to go into public relations side. I want to be the publicist, the public relations individual that kind of handles the behind the scene work, but is still instrumental in various people's lives and companies' lives as well.
So I'm born and raised in out here in Southern California, the Valley and Valencia area. So I grew up, right next to Hollywood and right next to, the entertainment industry. And my dad has been in the music business for like 40 plus years. So I really grew up seeing that firsthand. And while I was growing up, he was an executive at several like major labels, and then he started his own label. So his influence was really big into, and just my overall love for music. I just knew I always knew I wanted to work in the music industry. I didn't really discover PR as a career until college. So even during like high school, at one point I had gone to a high school that was half high school curriculum and half college. So I was taking college classes and I was taking like music business classes and stuff like that. And I thought I was going to major in music business, but my dad was actually the one that was like, no, don't major in that. Don't limit yourself. Do something more broad. So, you can have a broader, and different types of skills. You can kind of learn the music industry like on the job. So I was gonna I initially majored in business marketing, and I wasn't really feeling the economics and the accounting classes. So I was like, yeah, this is not for me. And I just kind of had to pause, and I was like, okay, what can I do within the music industry that fits to my skills and my knowledge? So I've always been a really great writer. So upon doing some research, I discovered PR as a career path. And I really loved everything that it was about because it combines marketing, writing, psychology, like a lot of different factors go into PR. So I switched over to the PR side, and I finished my 4-year degree. It was underneath the journalism program, so technically I'm a trained journalist, but a lot of my courses were in PR. So there I really got a good idea of the amount of writing that was involved, and I think that that's become like a lost art on the music side.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was kind of how I got into PR. And then while I was in college, I started interning. I interned at ASCAP. I interned at a TV station that no longer exists. It was called Mundo. So it was like a bilingual channel, and a couple other internships. And then I started grinding. Like I would just like hit people up, and like I would, one of my professors had told me like, oh, contact people that you would want to be in their position and see if they'll do like an informational interview. So I just started reaching out to people, and a couple people talked to me, and one in particular that I had reached out to, she ended up, like a couple years after I reached out to her, she just emailed me. She's like, yo, I'm trying to hire somebody. Like, are you available? And that's how I ended up getting my first like actual job after college at BMI.
Nice. So you had a lot of experiences, obviously interning and then up into your first job. What are some of those things that you learned while you were interning and then working at your first job at BMI that you feel like helps you even today with your own company?
I would say the number one thing is like work ethic and your attitude towards things. I've never been the type of person to be like, oh yeah, that's not really what I do, or that's not under my job description. Like, you have to have like that figure it out mentality. Like,
Mm-hmm.
do whatever is needed, even if it's not technically under your role. I just always made myself valuable and helpful and tried to figure out like how to make an impact, I guess, wherever I was at. And that's kind of something that you can't really teach, it has to kind of be in you to act like that. And I that's also something that I feel like is lacking in a lot of the younger generation. And I think that has to do with social media and kind of like an instant gratification society that we now live in. But I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. But then the other part is I'm just a music lover and I pay attention. I pay a lot of attention. I research a lot of stuff. Like growing up, I was always reading album liner notes. I was listening to the radio to like the end of the year countdowns. I had like the tape recorder and like a pen and pad, and I would write down the names of the songs. Like I just knew a lot about music. I knew a lot. I would sit there and look up like samples of records, like of hip hop records. And then just knowing how to write well, how to speak professionally, how to interact with different people, treating everybody with respect. Yeah, I mean, people to this day think that I worked at ASCAP and I never worked there. Like, that's just like the way that I carried myself. And like, whenever, one of the executives there needed help with something, I'd be like, oh yeah, what do you need? I got you. And I would deliver. Like, make sure that you deliver.
Exactly. When you look at just the overall spectrum of the music business, because I was the same way. Like I used to go buy CDs and read who produced what, who wrote what, like you said, sampling, where'd you get this sample from? So I feel you on that. That's the one thing I miss in today's digital age, that you don't have the hard copy. So I understand that wholeheartedly. When you look at what you've gone through, obviously you definitely paid your dues. I remember meeting you at a concert. What was that? 2015, I believe, 2014, 2015, around there when we met. And first of all, I appreciate you looking out for me for those years. I'm gonna say that publicly. But when you were going through those ups and downs, and obviously the ups and downs of the industry, how did you stay sane? How did you keep your focus on what you wanted to keep your focus on and not get totally discouraged where you just wanted to give up and go to do something else?
I think low-key having those moments is kind of like a rite of passage in the music business. Like I don't know anyone that hasn't had those moments. But at the end of the day, I think all of us that really pursue a career in this business, it's because we love music and we really love this shit. And so that's what really always kept me going. And just like I said, like just having that mentality of like, I'm going to figure this out. And just figuring it out. Just pivoting, with the times, as everything has gone more digital, as the media landscape has changed drastically within the last 2-3 years. Just continuing to like educate myself, figure out what's going on, and just working. Also, like the music keeps me motivated. Finding, like, I really love finding new artists to work with. I love just when I feel like really passionate about an artist and their music, that always like reinvigorates me. Yeah, I would say that.
Now, you being a woman in this industry, obviously it's a male dominant industry. How are you able to maintain your respect and your respect to artists for them to respect you and know that you are about business and that's it, just about the business itself?
Um, I've never had an issue with being a woman, to be honest. Like, and I know it's such a touchy, subject, but I've always been shown the utmost respect by every artist I worked with. All of like anybody that was a part of their team, it was always like, oh, like you good, sis? Like, we got you. Like, I never felt uncomfortable. And I think that that lends itself to how I carry myself. I respect myself. I carry myself a certain way. I'm very conscious of, especially when I was starting off, I was very conscious of how I would dress. And the stuff I would post on social media. I was, I always wanted to be viewed a certain way, and not overly, using my femininity to, get a client or get a, whatever. So yeah, I mean, I think if I would give some advice to young women entering the music industry, it's like number one, respect yourself, carry yourself, a certain way to demand that respect, and just be classy. Don't, throw everything out there like that.
Yeah, when I mentioned Sasha's name, you got weight out here in these music streets for sure. I mean, there's a lot of people that speak very well of you, obviously with the hard work and dedication that you persevered throughout the years, which speaks volumes. And I think any young person, especially young women and even young men, could look at your example and say, hey, you know what? Everything that you've gone through and you still made it. Now you're owner of your own company. Talk to me about the artists, because you work with a lot of artists. I remember, there are several artists that I remember you personally working with. But let everybody know what were the artists that you work with, and how were you able to get a hold of those artists to be able to work with them and them allowing uh, you to take hold of their careers in a way where it's like, hey, this person is kind of responsible for how I look and what moves that I make.
Um, okay, before I answer that, I want to add something to the last question.
Yeah, sure.
I I want to clarify that when I say I was very conscious of the way that I would dress and present myself, I'm not saying that a woman that dresses a certain way deserves to get disrespected at all. But I am saying that you have to be very conscious of how you present or portray yourself, and demand that respect. So I want to add that in there. Um,
Absolutely.
okay, as far as the artists that I've worked with, along the years, I have worked with Mustard early on in his career, French Montana, Jennifer Lopez, Melanie Fiona, um, RJ, Joe Moses, G Perico, Rucci. I worked with India Love, and the list goes on. um, but I will say, from some of the more established international artists like a Jennifer Lopez or a French Montana, that experience was great, especially Jennifer Lopez. She is a beast. Like she is like she's a businesswoman. She has creative input and business input into everything. She knows what's going on, and she knows how to turn on the persona, which I think is super important for artists. Like artists have to know how to separate who they are personally from who they are and who they portray themselves as an artist. And she is like a master at that. Um, but I would say the artists that I've really been a part of their career from the ground up, and had great success with were RJ and G Perico. With them two, I came on like very early in their careers, and like with RJ, I started working with him around the time he dropped Amio 2 and Get Rich. So that was really, I with him, I was definitely a part of him, his whole like career and his brand growing over the years. And, you know, he went on to sign a major label deal, as well as with G Perico. I came in when he dropped his second mixtape, Shit Don't Stop. And also with him, I was able to kind of build up his brand as an artist. And with both of them, I would say I crossed them over from being more regional to national. Like we did like New York press runs, just started getting like more New York based and more national press coverage for them, and just kind of lifted both of their brands up more. So yeah, those would be some of the highlights.
Oh yeah, you definitely did that. I mean, the work that you put in, along with them, obviously the artist has to do the work too, but the work that you put
Yeah.
in, you see the remnants of that. You see the evidence of that as far as, like you said, G Perico, RJ, even some of the other artists that you worked with early on. You can kind of see,
Yeah.
what your motto is. When you look at today's art, especially in LA, because it seems like LA now is really, the artists are really coming up. They're starting to get their shine. They're
Yeah.
starting to really take control of their destiny. Who are some of the artists out here that kind of catches your eye that you look at and say, okay, I see their grind? And do you always say to yourself, okay, dang, if they did this better, then they would be here? Do you kind of like critique, because you coming from that public relations standpoint?
Yeah. One of the artists who has impressed me a lot, who I actually worked with, is Drebo. He is an incredible talent, and he's very strategic in how he moves, which is super important. And he was inspired by an interview with Gary Vee and Nipsey Hussle to put out one song a day for this whole year, and he stuck to it and has dropped one song per day, and like they're all good. Like they're all like quality records. So him for sure. Who else do I listen to? That Huey Briss from Long Beach is dope. Desi G, he's a DJ producer. He's super dope. Who else? Lil Deuce. He got a record outside that's been going up in LA. P1, he's super dope too. Yeah, and then I always listen to some of the other ones, like some other staples, like Earl Swavey. Anything Cypress produces, I fuck with. Cypress Moreno. And yeah.
Do you feel like music is starting to get back to its roots as far as the lyricism and not just production, but the marketing of the projects now too?
I feel like there is a lot of experimentation and confusion when it comes to marketing projects. I feel like a lot of people are just trying to emulate what they see others doing rather than being creative and, doing something unique and original. I like that a lot of artists have been switching from dropping on Fridays, like independent artists in LA specifically. They've been kind of switching from dropping on Fridays, along with all the major label releases, to like Tuesdays or Wednesdays. I think that's a super smart idea, because you're not competing with, all the noise of all the Friday releases. I would like to see artists get more creative with their social media rollouts. I would like to see more content. I think also that artists get caught up in feeling like they have to just post about their music instead of showcasing their overall brand, lifestyle, who they are. Because at the end of the day, we buy into who an artist is, what they represent. So I would like to see artists tap into that more.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at, I've watched your career continue to develop, and you really out here, like I said, doing the work and really giving your 100% plus to a lot of the artists in your work and what you do. How important is it to maintain relationships? Especially, I see you have a lot of relationships rather with various people. Brian Silas, obviously, DJ Head, Chuck Dizzle, some other radio personalities. How are you able to maintain those relationships, and how important is that for those that may be listening and or watching?
I mean, I'm just a genuine person. So if I fuck with you, I fuck with you. Like, and it's not because of something you can do for me or, because I need a favor. Like, I genuinely, try to support people as much as I can, try to show up for them as much as I can. I really hate asking, people to do stuff like, even when it's work related and I have to. Um, I just, I have genuine friends, in this industry, and you know, people fuck with me because I feel like I'm real. I don't act a certain way. I don't treat anybody a certain way. I don't act Hollywood towards anybody. I'm just me, and that's it. I like to lead a very low key life. I just, and I, like I said, I love music. That's really like the basis and the foundation for everything. Is I just love music. So and I can also spot in other people their motives too. So I know I attract certain, like more also genuine, real people to me. So it's not difficult to, maintain those relationships, but maintaining relationships is extremely important. I would say, to anybody that aspires to work in the music or to up and coming artists, make sure, whether it's online or in person or via email or whatever, just always, be respectful of people's time. Don't spam people. Um, and work towards building, those relationships in a genuine way. Like, if you see a radio personality, post that they just got the night show at the station that they're at, congratulate them. Like, it's just as simple as that, you know. Um, or like, I've had artists that reach out to me and I may not know who they are, but there's a certain way that they reach out to me that makes me actually pay attention versus like, oh, hey, check out my song and leave a comment. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. But if you approach me like, hey, I've been following your work. I know what you do. I'd appreciate it. The song I just dropped, and, I'd appreciate your feedback. Okay, I'll give you my time because I like your approach.
No, that makes total sense. I think a lot of people, I think that should be a class in itself, how to approach people in the right way.
Yeah, for sure.
When you look at the hustle and bustle of this industry, what makes you still love it?
The music.
Okay, that's fair.
The music, yeah. And I will say, obviously due to COVID, we haven't been out and, going
Hmm.
to as much, but I've also, kind of fell back from being out as much. Just going to the things that I want to be at, I have to be at. I'm excited to go back to shows, and see live performances because I feel like, especially with all these new artists, when those shows come back, you got to really prove your stage presence and that you can control the crowd. And, it's not just, putting the record out on iTunes anymore.
Oh no, there's going to be 5, 10, 15, 20,000 folks.
Yeah.
You better be ready after all this time for sure. Talk to me about SDP Digital. Now, how did you come up with that concept? What is the vision of this company, and where do you want to take it to as it continues to move forward?
So I started it in 2017, and it was just time for me to establish myself on my own and, build my own agency. And the vision was at first it was to work with artists and continue to do PR and branding for them and kind of continue to build up, more artists as I had been doing. And then I would say last year and this year, after COVID, it kind of made me reevaluate things. And so I've transitioned into more so a multicultural publicity and branding agency that works with, different entertainment entities, corporate festivals, touring, tech. So, but everything based kind of in targeting multicultural audiences. And authentic campaigns rooted in culture. I think that's something that's missing at a lot of companies. As we know, especially last year after everything that went down, all of these companies, now have these DEI, initiatives, but a lot of it is just like very performative, and you still have a lot of majority white executives, and especially in their marketing departments, and a lot of these agencies they have a big lack of diversity, and they don't really understand how to reach the young millennial and Gen Z multicultural audiences. And I think that a mistake that a lot of marketing professionals make is that they try to categorize um, audiences by race or ethnicity versus like subcultures. So, when it comes to hip hop, there's all different types of, people of different ethnic and racial backgrounds that listen to hip hop and kind of grew up influenced by that. And it does stem from Black culture, but you have Latinos, Black, Asian, Middle Eastern, you name it. So I think that's something that a lot of marketing professionals miss the mark on. So I feel like that's what I've been doing my whole career, and I know how to target these audiences. I have the relationships on the music and entertainment side, so I can really bridge that gap for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think a lot of people are culturally clueless, and I think companies like yours and others that can find their way in could really restructure if they want it, to be able to do that. Because I agree, I looked at just even from a not just the entertainment side, but from the sports side. I mean, a lot of these
Yeah.
organizations were putting out these PSAs, and I'm like, okay, that's how you feel. Okay, let's put it to the test. So how about we have more diversity when it comes to media and
Hmm.
media coverage? How about we start there?
Yeah.
And then they look at me like,
And that's another problem, is that you go to one of these big PR agencies, and it's been something that people have been talking about for a minute. Like, you have a Latino or a Black actor or singer, etc., and they go to a big agency, and their publicist is now white, and they turn down the interview request from ethnic media. And it's like, why would you do that? And it's because they don't understand the value. They don't see the value in it. And that's a huge red flag.
no, it's huge. I remember a story, uh, probably a few months back. These two Black journalists were on the red carpet. You know, sometimes they like to stick us near the end of the carpet, the Black folks, brown folks, who, anybody that's not Caucasian primarily. And Holly Berry walks by. Now, she had a white publicist, to my understanding. They
Oh,
call, hey, Holly. The white publicist like ignores them.
yeah.
Holly comes back and says, no, I got to go talk to my people. And she literally comes back and gives them like a 10 or 15-minute interview. And I'm like, how many people, if they just did that, just give you 5 minutes, because one thing I will say, and you know this, Sasha, as well, everybody starts from ground zero in our business and we work our way up.
Yeah.
So you can't get the breakthrough move if you don't get access to somebody like a Halle Berry or a Denzel or an Ice Cube or Be Real from Cypress Hill or somebody of that magnitude, where you're like, oh, eyeballs are going to follow this because you asked these questions to them.
Yeah.
And that's why I think people are just culturally clueless. And I gave a lot of props to Halle Berry for that, because I was like, you know what? She could have easily just walked inside and said, hey, I'm running late, and just skipped out, and she didn't do that. So that I had a new profound respect. Would you say that it's not only up to media to proclaim, hey, we want economic inclusion and we want more diversity, but it's also up to the entertainer and the athlete as far as being on that same page, since they majority have the power to designate who they want to talk to and not?
Yes, I think that in their defense, though, I feel like with the Halle Berry example, she was able to correct that because she saw it with her own eyes. But think about how many emails came into her publicist that she didn't see that the publicist turned down. So on the one hand, it's like, I think a lot of times the entertainers or the athletes, they may not know that's happening, and they trust, the PR agency or whoever that they paid to, make the right decisions for them. But yeah, I think that they should, make it a point to, whenever they're vetting, whoever they're about to hire, to tell them like, hey, we're not turning down, Black media, Latino media, etc.
Now, speaking of which, some media, you've been involved with some pretty major projects as of late. I saw you with the Lovers and Friends concert. That's now a 2-day affair. It went from a 1-day affair to a 2-day affair. I saw you with I consider probably one of the biggest concerts of the year at Once Upon a Time in LA. Shout out to Bobby D Presents. How are you a part of that, and how did you connect with those festivals specifically to be able to have your impact on those as well?
So I was brought in by a creative agency. They're called Ni Pastel, and shout out to the homie Chris Carrera, and he's also amazing. He's been in music for a few years. He gave a platform to a lot of LA artists too, so shout out to him. But yeah, they brought me on to handle media and influencer outreach, so that's how that happens.
That's awesome. Those are you couldn't ask for 2 better concerts. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, I'm excited about those.
Absolutely, you should be. I mean, it's a major thing, and like you said earlier, just being back outside and being able to attend, concerts, something we haven't been able to do in about a year and change.
Yeah.
When you talked about earlier, I know you said Cypress Moreno, obviously Rosecrans, Vic, the
Mm-hmm.
whole crew. What is it like working with them? What is your relationship with them, and how are you all able to kind of have a meeting of the minds and still be able to be successful and push the movement forward?
I work pretty closely with Cypress. So with him, he's somebody he's been in the game almost like, I think, as long as I have, like probably like damn near 10 years. He started like with Young California, and I call him the young goat because he has put on so many artists out here, like it's crazy. And he's one of those people who isn't afraid to work with somebody or co-sign somebody before they're hot and everybody else fucks with them. So I consider him, and also Vic, like tastemakers. I pay attention, to who they're talking about, who they're listening to. And yeah, I think we all have, a great respect for each other. And I would include like Salas and Head and, everybody in that group as well. And yeah, I think we all kind of help each other in our own capacities so that we can all kind of elevate Los Angeles and elevate our artists to, bigger and better things.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron for sure. I mean, we witness it all the time. So it's great that you guys came together and really continue to elevate the culture and push the culture forward. All right, so I'm gonna put you in the hot seat a little bit, ask you a couple rapid fire questions. Whatever comes to mind first, feel free to run it off. So you prefer heat or cold?
Heat.
Fruit Loops or Frosted Flakes?
Frosted Flakes.
Light or dark liquor?
It used to be dark. Now probably light.
Okay, so I mean, it sounds like you kind of do both, or you switch
Yeah,
to light.
yeah. I do more tequila now.
Okay, all right, fair enough. What's your favorite brand?
I really like Casamigos right now.
Okay, yeah. You know what's funny? I just tried that a couple weeks back, and I was actually thoroughly impressed by it.
Yeah, good.
I was thoroughly impressed. Um, Wine or beer?
Wine.
If you were on an island by yourself and you only could take 3 albums with you, what would those albums be and why?
Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt. I listen to that one like very often, front to back. Um, I'd have to throw in some Erica Badu. Probably Baduism. I'm a huge Erica Badu fan. And the third one, I gotta go with Nas, just because he's my favorite. It's a tough one. I would probably go with It Was Written.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I mean, he's got some classics for sure.
Yeah.
Nas has got some classics. With King's Disease too. Oh my God.
Oh,
Jesus.
yes, and I repeat for the past few days.
Shout out to him and Hit Boy. My goodness
Yeah,
gracious.
they make a really great combination.
It's like almost like a Dre Snoop type of deal.
Yeah, I'm really glad that they linked up. So
Yeah, that was
people
amazing.
always talk about his beat selection, and and this is like the perfect blend of like modern, but it's still like authentic to him.
Oh yeah, my track I'm bumping now is that Death Row East track because it has a '96 feel to it with a 2021 twist.
Yeah, I like that one. And then of course the one with Lauryn Hill.
God, Lauren just kills it, doesn't she? Like she never fell off.
Yeah.
I mean, M killed it on his verse with EPMD too. I mean, yeah, I'm loving it. I love hip hop.
I loved to see Blast on there. That made me so happy. I'm so happy and proud of Blast, like for real.
Blast, I got a hold of Blast. I think DJ Head was saying something about him, and I was like, okay, let me check out this because usually when Head says something, I try to check it out because I know he's tapped in, and I'm like, this kid is incredible. Like, where the hell has he been?
Yeah.
You know, and then him and Bino Rindo with their album that they got out together, I'm like, my God.
Yeah.
Between him and Roddy Ricch, who's I think Roddy Ricch is in the stratosphere. He's not even here anymore. That boy is so good.
Yeah, yeah. It's great to see everybody from out here doing really well.
All right, 2 final questions: Lakers or Clippers?
Lakers. Lakers.
Dodgers or Angels?
Dodgers.
All right, there you go. All right. Well, you know what, Sasha? I know you're a very busy woman. I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you. I have really appreciated you from afar, not just because you looked out for me, but just I appreciate you just as a human being and as a person. And I sincerely mean that. And, just watching you elevate and watching you grow is really great to see. And I hope a lot of people are taking note to what they are seeing because, listen, you can learn a lot from her journey. I hope everybody learned a lot from what she's saying and continue to learn from you. Because listen, it's valuable teaching, and just because it's not in 4 walls doesn't mean you can't be educated.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Please let everyone know where they can continue to keep up with you and all of the great work that you're continuing to do.
You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Sasha Pisterman, SASHAPISTERMAN. Also, my company Instagram at SDP Digital. And I'm usually on Instagram or Twitter. So
that's where I always see you because I can't, like I said earlier, I can't catch up with you. So I usually I scroll through the gram and be like, oh, okay, she's doing this now. All right, cool.
Yeah, I try to share the highlights.
As you should. Well, you know what? Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate you coming on board, and we'll definitely have to get you on at some point, maybe sometime soon, as far as these concerts are coming up, and get your perspective on that as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me.